And we're going to go into exec.
Dan, how you doing? Hey, ladies. Is Mary here?
Yes.
Is she?
In the room.
I just asked the same
We
question.
just have to find.
Apparently. I think we can.
You get everybody gathered?
Yes.
But you don't have to rush out unless it's canceled or.
Yeah. Yeah, the other one's canceled.
But I'm sure you just want to say for the whole
We're
duration.
good.
Have we,
Yes. We're supposed to bless it again. Thank you. Good to see you. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Janet just said she wanted to get back to the and she wanted to make sure that you were
we're good.
Okay, so if you want to change names, just we'll tell her it. Okay.
Okay, tell me
Probably just late yellow buses. You know, I can't touch metro, they cancel it. But they run late. But if I do it, they cancel a special route. It's important. I need to get this result. I know.
Yeah. No.
I know. And this is
Lisa buys you 2 hours.
Well,
Aces. We can still do Aces. 11:30.
But we're not doing the transportation. Presentation, it's not in here.
No, tomorrow on Aces. We are.
Tuesday's first of all.
That's Aces.
I know. I don't see any. Yeah,
Yeah. No, on the
it's workforce development, like
no.
presentation.
No, we got the sustainability.
That's an old one. It's at yeah.
We ready?
notice. So we get paid for a notice meeting.
Yeah,
Yes.
So tomorrow will be a notice meeting.
Uh-huh.
No, I saw that.
We good?
Yeah, we good.
I call to order the November 17th, 2014 regular meeting of the Cincinnati Board of Education. We welcome everyone and request everyone in the audience and down here on the floor to silence their cell phones and other electronic devices. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Mrs. Bates will lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mrs. Witt, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Bates.
Here.
Mr. Manera.
Here.
Mr. Nelms.
Here.
President Bolton.
Here. I need a motion to approve the minutes from the special meeting October 27th, 2014, regular meeting October 20th, and the special meeting of October 29th, 2014.
So
Thank you, Mr. Coons, and thank you, Mr. Manera. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Coons, as Chair of the Partnership and Public Engagement 3rd, 2014 Committee Meeting Report.
Yes, I present the minutes as written. We heard from Dawn Grady about some of our social media work, and it seems that things have been paying off with what we've done to try to boost our connectivity, as I would call it, to the community, especially with Facebook and also our new app. So we heard some impressive stats about how many downloads and everything that have been accruing. And also we had another successful, impressive showing of 30,000.
As Chair of Finance,
tonight that was and the report I present as printed.
thank you, Mr. Coons. Is that your note?
I present the minutes as written. Have some actions for our assistant superintendents to take with regards to that. Give us a wrap up.
And administration and we had a site visit at the Jonathan Jennings School, so I'd like to thank Mr. McMahon and his teachers for hosting. Kind of pick their brains, ask them lots of questions about what's happening at their school to see the really impressive results with their students that they're seeing. We went back to the Mayor's Office of Education Innovation for an afternoon of panel conversations. The first conversation was about their dropout recovery schools or adult high schools. Lots of really interesting work there, and they're seeing really significant results, like a significant increase in annual wages, decreases in incarceration. I think I jotted down a note here that one of the things that really stuck with me was something that Mr. Best from Goodwill Education said, and they run one of these systems of adult high schools. And I hope I got this right because I was jotting it down so quickly when he said it, that a child of a dropout, of a high school dropout, is 50% more likely to drop out of school himself, while a child of a high school graduate plus some sort of post-secondary, only about 5% of those kids will drop out. And so what he said was, if we hit parents with education, it changes a child's trajectory. That was just a really significant statement. We then split into two groups. We talked about the principal fellowship that Indianapolis has been doing for about 5 years that we're just starting now to hear about expanding access to early childhood. We had a chance to hear from about this Public Law 1321 to bring innovative ideas to turn around low-performing schools. We had a chance to hear from a board member and their superintendent and some of their nonprofit partners there. And then we closed out the day hearing about initial planning for a high school partnership with Purdue. So a really packed day. We packed a lot into one day, and I think we're just all excited to sit down with the administration and really debrief it and figure out what's working for Indianapolis that we might be able to learn from and replicate here.
And one thing Ms. Hoffman forgot to mention is some heroics from our superintendent. The lunch that was planned actually didn't happen, and so Ms. Ronan had to run across the street, buy a case of euros to bring back to everyone, and then was accosted by security. They took items from her purse and did not return them, which were completely harmless, but nothing of too much value, so
The heroes
she
made it
made it
through.
through unscathed, but we appreciated her efforts.
They x-rayed the food.
But we
present the
would
bid
really
assessment.
like to thank also our hosts in Indianapolis. They put a lot of work into getting those panelists together, and so we'd really like to thank them as well.
And I know the board would like to thank you particularly for making so many arrangements about that and the liaison that you provided, and certainly thank Student Achievement Committee for doing all the work that was required to do that. And I know it was beneficial for those of us that attended, and I know you're already practicing and promising a debrief.
Yes.
So great, that's great. Does anyone have any questions about the November 12th Committee of the Whole meeting? Seeing none, Mrs. Bates, as Chair of the Finance Committee, would you please present information about the November 12th Audit Committee meeting?
Yes, I present that report, the minutes of that meeting as printed.
Thank you. We now need a voice vote to accept the committee reports as written, and I think there were 5 of them. I won't repeat them, but all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Tonight's presentation, and I know we've had the snow day, and there's been some great confusion about a number of things happening, but we appreciate all of the folks that are here and know that some of the stuff is getting rescheduled for our December 8th meeting as well. But tonight, our first presentation will be led by Julian DeGlacio, who is our Social Studies Curriculum Manager, and featuring the new Taipei City Sister here.
Thank you. Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Good evening, Superintendent Ronan and Mrs. Witt. This evening, we are pleased to be here to be saying that we're in year 2 of our Sister City Exchange program with New Taipei City. As some of you may recall from being on the board last year, we were here about a year and a half ago with a lot of kids with us from New Taipei City at that point, and we've made some progress in our exchange. So in late 2012, we began planning. The mayor of New Taipei City and the mayor of Cincinnati signed an agreement that we would have a 5-year exchange program. And so we are in the second of 5 years of that, but we began planning late in the year of 2012. In April 2013, we hosted 30 students from New Taipei City, of which 15 to 18, I can't remember the exact number at this point, were in Cincinnati Public, and then we've partnered with some of the surrounding districts, so Forest Hills, Seton, St. X, Milford, Indian Hills. Some of the other districts were part of this exchange and have continued to be part of the exchange. We've built up some really nice partnerships with our friends in those districts. This June, we were fortunate to be able to send 18 of our students from Cincinnati Public over to New Taipei City, and they were accompanied by our very own superintendent, Mary Ronan, who enjoyed her trip over to New Taipei City, as we've heard lots of stories of her extravagant travels abroad. We also had a CPS principal and several teachers who accompanied the superintendent. With us tonight, we have Will Strasser and his mother, Karen, who Will was part of that trip, and they just wanted to say a few words about the opportunity to travel abroad.
Hey, how's it going, everybody, tonight on this freezing evening? I had the awesome opportunity to go to Taiwan this past summer. I'm a senior at Walnut Hills High School, and it was just such an honor to go to another country and be treated like an international ambassador. I mean, they really gave us the royal treatment, rolled out the red carpet for us, and it was incredible to see how another culture teaches their young and kind of creates I really noticed a sense of community in the people and the students there. For example, the students in their classes they stay as one while the teachers swap in and out of the classes, and they are responsible for cleaning the schools as well. They don't have janitors on staff, and so everybody kind of feels responsible for their learning environment, and they do it as a team, and people come out of these schools with lifelong friends, and I think that's a really good thing for us to see going over to these other countries. And I'd encourage anybody who's looking to travel abroad or even study abroad to definitely jump at an opportunity to go to a place like Taiwan. Did you want to say that?
I'm Will's mom. My name's Karen Strasser, and I just wanted to thank the board for your role in making this trip a possibility for my son, because it really was a chance of a lifetime for him. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that was as of this summer, and then it was their turn again. So they came over, we went over, and now they're back. So of course, any good trip involves a trip. These are my two girls, Yvonne and Eva, that are staying with us. So we properly introduced them to Cincinnati culture, of course, this week at Skyline. Currently, we have 30 students on the ground in Cincinnati and 2 teachers. And the first week of November, there was also a delegation of 3 officials from New Taipei City who arrived in Cincinnati. The superintendent met and socialized with the officials and worked on upcoming plans during that visit. And we had an opportunity to really work with them and craft out what we're very excited about as a teacher exchange program that will begin in the next several months towards the end of this school year, where we will have some teachers go over to New Taipei and not just visit, not just do a cultural exchange, but actually be in classrooms and teaching. And so we're working with them on what kinds of teachers they're interested in having, and then we've talked about what teachers we would want to have when they come back in November. So that's kind of the new piece that we really worked hard to craft last week. It feels like many moons ago, but really it was just last week. And we worked with them on that, and we'll continue to plan that out in the coming weeks. So as they arrived, you can see this is a picture from their plane. This is from Eva's roll film. But so it was a long distance, but they got here at the, that was the picture with the kids on it is from the welcome luncheon at Indian Hill. And then there's Gamble Montessori, where our 2 girls are attending school on their first day of school. So currently, they're here from November 1st to the 22nd, so we're a little more than 2/3 of the way through our visit, which is sad to those of us who are hosting, because it's been a really wonderful experience as always. 15 of the 30 kids are attending CPS schools, and you can see the breakdown there of what schools have students in them. And it's, we really reached out to the community at large. We sent this to all teachers and all students, and about who could really host. And so really we do give a big hats off to those schools and principals who have taken students in, because they have done a really nice job of welcoming them and creating schedules and buddies and all of the work that it takes to make kids feel very welcome while they're here. Last Friday we had the red tablecloth picture we had 11 of our Hamilton County coaches' houses, Matt Wendell, and they cooked for us for about 4 hours, right, girls? You cooked for a long time. Oh. So I got to experience some of the food that Mrs. Ronan experienced when she was in New Taipei City last year. And then we also, we've gotten out and taken bike rides and done all kinds of stuff around the city to really show off the wonderful sights that the city of Cincinnati has. This is, of course, pre-snow day weather, last Monday. So the host families, all the students in Cincinnati stay with volunteer host families. And in CPS, just to give you a snapshot of who those host families are, we have 2 teachers. Tammy Ziliox is at Dater, and Craig Rush is here with us, and I'll talk in just a moment. We have a Hamilton County instructional coach, 2 administrators, 3 student families, and a community member. So it's a nice cross-section of folks. And so, again, hats off to Steffi Capel as our community member. And so this is students in the district right now, and so she really has to make an effort, and when there's a snow day, to handle that and to make sure that she's aware of the student schedule. So it's a little bit different than those of us who are operating within the school schedule. So it is a nice cross section, and give kids a very different experience depending on who they're staying with in the homestay. But I will tell you, as a homestay family, a host family, we tend to bond together. So we all are checking in to say who's going to Graders tonight, who's doing, who's cooking and that kind of stuff. So it's really very fun for those of us who are hosting. And our family hosted last time, and we were right on board again this time. But Craig, do you want to say, this is Craig Rush. He is one of our demo coaches. You may have heard from Craig. He's doing the flipped classroom at Withrow. And so Craig is hosting a young man.
Okay, so thanks for this opportunity. It's been great to have Jack stay with us. It's been an awesome opportunity not only for our own family, but for the students at our school. One of the cool things we've been able to develop is a little bit of a blog between students from Taiwan and with the Withrow students as well. So it's been awesome. And a great experience that we had with our own family was one evening he was Skyping with his class, his English class, in New Taipei, and my daughter got to sneak downstairs and talk to the ship. We just got back from sled riding. He's only seen snow, I think, a couple times before. So it's been an awesome experience, and we want to thank you for this chance because some great things Jack has been doing. He put, for instance, Chinese words all over our classroom to teach the kids about that. You know, he put name tags together for them in Chinese, and it's been really a wonderful thing to have you come and visit us. So thank you.
Right.
Jack, do you want to say a few words?
Hello, I'm Jack, and I like the weather here. And so it is freezing, but I like the snow. And I will trash the last week I'm here, and I will try to learn more from my friends, my school, and my host family. And I will try to do my best in here for the last week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yvonne?
So my name is Yvonne, and me and Eva stay in Julia's home, and we experienced the 2 weeks in Gamble, and we found that the students, because we don't have that change classes in Taiwan school, because the teachers will come in our school and teach his whole class. So I think we can meet more friends here because we have to change every class. And we also, some schools have cafeteria in Taiwan school and some not. So we experience many things. And there are so many kinds of classes here, and we don't have that so much class in Taiwan. So it's a good experience for us. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
My name is Eva. Sorry, I had a cold, so my sounds terrible. Yvonne and me do a lot of presentation this day. We introduce a lot of Taiwanese culture for students. We have also do some presentation in Maya's school, and they love very much. Thank you for I have this chance to in Cincinnati. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Poor Eva.
I hope you didn't get that cold here.
I did.
Yes, you did.
We've given Walgreens some business this week. Okay, and lastly, I thought it might be interesting to hear from a little person host family. So go ahead, Maya.
Okay. It has been really fun hosting Eva and Yvonne. They're really fun. It's been a great experience because I've tried their candies and snacks. Some of them are good and some of them just taste awful. But it's been really fun because today at the snow day we had a snowball fight. I won, of course. And we had a great experience and they're really fun.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
All right.
Julia, can I add something?
Sure.
I wanted to share that even Yvonne came to my Girl Scout troops meeting at Dearden Montessori. We had 22 girls, and we had a ball. And we taught them many games and many songs, and they taught us a few songs. That was interesting. And our troop gave them a white rose crest that they can wear on their uniforms, because every troop worldwide has a crest that is theirs and theirs alone. So the girls will always have that bond with us. And I touched on a plan that I didn't anticipate with Girl Scouts being international. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that was really cool. Eva mentioned that early on, that she was a Girl Scout. And I said, Maya has Girl Scouts. And she said, do you think we could go? And I said, I'll check. So it worked out really well. So while they were here, they visited the Air Force Museum, but enough about Dayton. The Purple People Bridge, Newport on the Levee, shopping malls, restaurants, more shopping, more restaurants, and then more shopping. I don't know if that's true about my girls, but later this week, they're going to go to the museum center and visit the mayor's office and visit the Taiwan Association of Cincinnati's headquarters. And I know many of the students prepared and gave presentations about Taiwan. And I know Craig's done a really good job of giving Jack that opportunity. And our girls have talked to lots of kids at Gamble and Data. And so they were supposed to do Hyde Park today, but we got snowed out. But I know a lot of the kids really wanted to share what it's like just to give our kids. I think when we have programs like this, I've talked to the principals about really one of the things we want to do is make sure that we maximize the opportunity of this global education and making sure that when we've got kids from around the world that we learn from them. So it's not just an experience where they're taking away American culture, but really, rather, what is it that we can learn from you? So our next steps are to encourage CPS students to participate in the trip to New Taipei City in June of 2015. So that's coming up. We were supposed to do an orientation this evening, but that's gotten postponed until Thursday. So this Thursday at 7 o'clock here at the Ed Center, we'll be doing an orientation for students that are interested. We're, of course, working to fund these trips, so we'll be looking for grant funding and other donations. We want to recruit teachers to be part of the exchange program. We think that was important last year to have strong teachers be aboard, and then they'll bring with them those students who are capable and appropriate for this kind of an experience. In May of 2015, the first group of CPS teachers heads to New Taipei for a 4-week teacher exchange program. So again, that's looking at teacher recruiting. What's the right fit? What are the disciplines that they're interested in having? And so I'll be working with the curriculum managers and others in HR to really take a look at who are some people that might be interested in this kind of an experience. And then in June of 2015, from the 7th to the 22nd, 15 students will go to New Taipei City, and then I'll be joining them. So I'm very excited about that experience. And some others may be going along as well to get that experience. So a few thank yous, and then we'll wrap up. Thank you for the Taiwanese Association of Cincinnati has really been remarkable in terms of their organization and really helping to lead this and be a support for us. Superintendent Ronan has been a huge leader and guider and has represented CPS both here and abroad so very well when it comes to the Sister City Exchange Program. We couldn't really ask for someone who could really encourage folks to be a part of this more, so thank you for that. Our Cincinnati High School principals and teachers who have welcomed students warmly into their schools. We've seen some really neat stuff. I know Craig's family, when Jack first arrived, they had signs, and Tammy Ziliak's family went to the hotel and made signs and welcomed them, and our family met him the next day. So we weren't quite as organized. But the CPS buddy students, so I know Will not only went to New Taipei City, but he's also serving as a buddy for a student at Walnut Hills, and so he's walking around and making sure he's taken care of. The NTC students, no short trip to come, this many miles across the seas to share what our city offers and to share what they have with us. And then finally, the many people who served as host families that all kind of rolled their sleeves up. And we'll be wrapping it up Friday night with a Thanksgiving dinner out at Milford for our farewell dinner. So it's been a whirlwind 3 weeks, well, 2 weeks so far. But we wanted to share this with you and thank you for your support.
Well, thank you. And if we can have the lights come up, that would be great, because I know we want to ask questions and also pose for some big pictures. Board members, comments? Mr. Coons.
Some board members know I'm a big fan of international travel, and this is one of those things that CPS does that makes me so proud, and I want to tell everybody about. So I want to thank you guys for coming, experiencing our city. Again, the leadership of Ms. Ronan and traveling across the world to reciprocate the learning is just really commendable. I kind of want to ask, what is your favorite thing about Cincinnati so far to each of our exchange students? No. Jack said the snow. I know that one.
The favorite thing about Cincinnati.
I like the grass baseball field.
The baseball team?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
I like Jack. Jack, actually, we have a former Cincinnati Reds right here, Mr. Nelms.
Probably well before your time, young man. Thank you.
Last night or Sunday, we went to see the basketball, the UC team against the other one is, I don't know.
Not who they were.
The basketball team and UC won the game. Won a lot.
All right.
So it's our first time, me and me and Eva to come to see the basketball game because we don't have that opportunities in Taiwan. So that is a great experience. And we also went to Skyline. Trust me, because many people here say it's a very good restaurant, but after me and Eva tried, it's not so good like we imagined.
It's
I think they thought it was going to be
taste.
fancy, and they were like, huh. Yeah.
Oh, I like the red bike.
The red bikes downtown.
We rode along the Ohio River. It's really beautiful.
That's fun.
And through downtown and like 10 miles last Monday. Yeah, it was really fun. Great.
Other board member comments, questions? Well, we are so pleased that you are here and so happy that you've joined us. And actually, if it's okay, if you could kind of stand in the horseshoe here with all of us, everybody come on in so we get a big picture.
Yeah.
Teachers, parents, hosts,
Yeah,
right
how
here
about
in the
in here?
horseshoe. We'll all stand up and that way Chris can get a picture and. Oh, they're getting down. Will you just run over there, Erica? There's room, babe. Diana, come on. Wait, let's get our treasure.
Yeah.
Right here, there's room.
We're in here. Come on in.
Go ahead and stand. Can everybody see me? Everybody ready? One more. Is everybody blink or anything? Everybody look at me. I'll wait for this dumb camera to charge up. Okay.
All right.
That'll make Facebook in a couple hours.
Thanks again.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Safe travels home. I know it's a few days away.
Oh, and while they're taking their seats, that building you see in the picture, that's Taipei 101, third largest building in the world, and we did get to go up on the top of it.
Wow.
Mary, what was the distance in time and time zone?
It's exactly 12 hours flipped.
Wow.
So it's 7:30 in the morning there. It was exactly 12 hours.
Our next presentation is actually pretty fitting, considering what we've just done, but I know it's also going to be somewhat abbreviated because our North Avondale students with their artwork and our North Avondale teacher is not here because of the closure of the schools, but we do, because of the timeliness issue, we do want to introduce the resolution, and we would ask that Michelle Dillingham and Tom Conlon come down to introduce this. We'll introduce the resolution, but I know they've got a proclamation from the mayor regarding the 35th anniversary of the International Year of the Child. So if you two will join us, and if there's anybody else, Michelle, that's in the audience that you would suggest come on down, that would be great too. And we'll say publicly, thank you for all your work the last few months, Michelle, and that wonderful percentage.
Yes.
And that's as much as I'm probably allowed to say right now. But thank you.
Maybe I can say something.
Yeah, okay.
Well, to that note, we did have an almost historic passage of our Cincinnati Public School renewal levy. So we thank the voters of Hamilton County, of the district, for supporting public schools. Very good work from everyone. Thank you.
If you can tell us what we're about to do, and also tell us what His Honor has done, so that would be wonderful.
Sure. So, we recognize the fact that there was a celebration, an anniversary, 35 years celebrating the anniversary of the Year of the Child, which is a United Nations event that really was done back in 1975 to bring forward increased awareness around the issues of child poverty. There was a work done called the Declaration of the Rights of the Child. And so this event back in 1975 awareness around the plight of children experiencing poverty. And so we just thought it would be great to sort of bring this forward to the Board of Education. And so we want to thank you for the resolution. And of course, as a way to further celebrate, we also went to the city of Cincinnati, and we have a mayoral proclamation reflecting some of the whereases of your resolution. Again, I can just read a couple. Essentially, whereas Cincinnati Public Schools has, through its community learning center education model, worked to mitigate the impact of poverty on education, and so a few other whereases. So we thank Mayor Cranley and members of council, particularly Councilmember P.G. Sittenfeld, for shepherding the proclamation to be able to celebrate that. But I just had a few comments I just wanted to make, if that's okay, on behalf of the group who kind of helped put this all together. So I'm speaking as a parent of a graduate from CPS, but also as a member of the Cincinnati Educational Justice Coalition, which is a coalition of parent, community, faith, labor organization, teachers, and engaged citizens committed to ensuring that every child has access to a public school system that provides equitable and quality education in a positive learning environment. A core value of this group is our steadfast opposition to efforts to privatize public schools through policies that promote competition rather than collaboration between schools. And we believe that community voices should be at the center of educational policy and are paramount to successful and sustainable solutions. So again, thank you for taking up this resolution to celebrate our community learning center model in the context of the United Nations International Year of the Child. We support the expansion and improvement of CLCs. We know that they are the best model for success. You may have seen the Cincinnati Enquirer's front page of November 9th called The Girls of Lower Price Hill. And so it told the story of 4 young girls in Lower Price Hill and sort of their struggles living in poverty in that neighborhood. It did mention Euler High School. Unfortunately, it said that the stroke of fortune of Euler, and it was talking about it positively, but I wouldn't give that to chance, actually. The stroke of fortune is really the work of the Community Learning Center model in action, bringing 400 mentors to that school to directly impact the lives of those children, so that we know that the Community Learning Center model is the best model. And the article even mentioned that 147 visits to Euler Health Clinic was simply because the children were hungry. So we are in a city that ranks second in the nation in child poverty, 51% of our children living under the poverty line. So, just reflecting in the earlier part of the meeting, I would say, and I believe the coalition would agree, that we don't need to go to other cities really to figure out the best model. We have one here. It's called Community Learning Center model. And in fact, other cities come here just to learn about what we're doing, to see how we're making it work despite the challenges. We are the envy of other urban districts. And so I would say we don't really need to go far to find the solution. We have one right here. And so thank you for recommitting to the expansion of the model. CLCs transform schools so we can avoid disruptions of school closures and massive budget cuts that Chicago, Philadelphia, New Orleans, and other cities are now experiencing. So thank you for resisting the pressure to embrace untested and unproven reforms. And with that, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Mr.
Michelle.
Conlon?
Thank you, Madam President, Board, Superintendent, Treasurer. I'm pleased to be here and to just extend, first of all, I got the word is that we're having a rally. So I'm the rally in the alley. And as some of you know, I can cut a wide swath. Whether that is construed as mischief or adding value is still under review. But I'm pleased to be before you again and talk about the community learning program. Well, here we have it right here with an international flavor. So our community has expanded quite obviously. So I came here because I was invited, and I support the absolute basic right of children to learn, the social justice, civil rights, equal justice, which we've got a lot to do, and of course equal opportunity all across the way. However, I know how Eva got her cold, And when I saw Eva and Yvonne and Maya, who is the lovely 10-year-old here, I said, I'm going to sign up to talk because they're really having some fun. And I was pleased to join outdoor adventure clubs this last Saturday out at Camp Joy. That was put together by Denny McFadden, a former teacher at Hughes High School. It's now embedded with the YMCA, and I'm a volunteer leader. I think I'm the oldest one out there. I'm certainly not the wisest one, but and I go out there Saturday, and the things we did was, and I wish I had talked to Julie or could have gotten some of these pictures. We did zip lining, we did the high ropes, we did archery. Both Eva and Yvonne got the arrow right in the target. One hit the bullseye. I don't know which one it was, but it was cool out there and it was windy. So, as some of you might not be surprised, I was the only leader or the older person that actually did all this. So we took a picture at the end of the time with Maya, who was 10 years old, as the youngest and the oldest that did the zip line. But it was really, but the ropes, I'll tell you, that's a little scary. And but everyone did it. And there were 78 of us out there. But just to meet these young women that are part of our Cincinnati public school community, even in a short 3 weeks, was just a joy. And somehow that was the group I was assigned to. We had Gamble Montessori, Riverside Academy, and the School of Performing Arts. And everybody mingled. And then at the end, importantly, which also draws upon the concept of an international well-being, and unlike our Congress, maybe we should all get them there. We had these tag-along games where you had to work together as a team. And, you had some winners and losers, but you worked together on it. And I couldn't help but relate. But so here, when I came here tonight and I saw my friends, I couldn't believe it. And so that's what I am pleased to share. I might add a little note, though. If you've got time, Julie, this week, you might try the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center as one of the national icons that is in Cincinnati, and it tells the critical story of our country that is still going on. And that would, if you can work that one in, be happy to work out some complimentary tickets and whatever else that you might need. Thank you all. It's great to see you again. So.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, Michelle. Your continued support of our district. The chair will entertain a motion for the introduction of the resolution that you have before you, the resolution to commemorate the 35th anniversary of the International Year of the Child. This is being introduced by the entire board, and it would be great if we kind of divide it up to a certain extent. Who would like to get us started? And if you have it before you, Mr. Coons, would you get us started, please?
Sure. Whereas the United Nations proclaimed 1979 the International Year of the Child in celebration of the 20th anniversary of the Declaration of the Rights of the Child, whereas the proclamation was intended to draw attention to problems that affected all children everywhere, including malnutrition and lack of access to education,
whereas 2014 marks the 35th anniversary of the International Year of the Child, whereas Cincinnati, according to the Children's Defense Fund, ranks second in the nation for child poverty. Cincinnati Public Schools embraces and supports the proclamation exhortation to reduce or mitigate the impact of poverty on children's education, often contributing to low academic performance. Despite high poverty, Cincinnati Public Schools students outperform their peers across the state.
Mr. Nelms.
Whereas Cincinnati Public Schools' academic success amid the poverty is in part attributed to the positive role of the Community Learning Center education model as a pathway for student success.
Mrs. Bates.
Whereas the leadership, faculty, and staff of CPS should be commended for their support and participation in the exemplary success of its community learning centers, and Cincinnati Public Schools is recognized nationally and has committed to the expansion and improvement of community learning centers. Our educational model currently offers the best hope for achieving equitable and high-quality education for all students.
Mr. Manera.
Therefore, let it be resolved that Cincinnati Public Schools is committed to celebrate the historical International Year of the Child, the Declaration of Rights of the Child, and solidify our commitment to pursuing the promise of public education.
Mrs. Hoffman.
Therefore, be it further resolved that Cincinnati Public Schools will work towards supporting the vision, spirit, and foundational declaration of children's rights within this international document, sustaining public schools all children deserve.
Thank you. We have Mr. Coons introducing it. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Bates. Is there any discussion? And we appreciate those folks that led in the presentation. Roll call.
Mrs. Bates.
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Danforth.
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Coons.
Aye.
Mr. Manera.
Aye.
Mr. Nelms.
Aye.
President Bolton.
Aye. Thank you very much. And again, we will reschedule our North Avondale presenters regarding this resolution, and we also are rescheduling the Pleasant Hill Academy folks as well for the December 8th meeting. Mrs. Bates, would you please present the retirements?
Yes, from our certificated personnel, Sue T. Crosby is retiring, also Roseanne R. Neflin. From our civil service personnel, we have Sam Bolden, Peggy Harris Bush, Linda Howard, Paul Rusher Jr., and we congratulate them on taking this step in their lives and thank them for what they've done for our children.
Thank you, Mrs. Bates. Mr. Nelms, do you have kudos tonight?
Yeah, Mr. Miles, would you be on deck, please? Kudos to Schroeder High School Jaguars for making their first ever playoff appearance in Ohio High School Athletic Association postseason tournament game that was played on November 8th against Hamilton-Baden Rams in a Division V quarterfinal game. The score was Baden 23 and Schroeder 13. And I would just like to add that it was an opportunity for us as a district to host a playoff game at Star Joe Stadium. And Bill, I wanted to know, was Schroeder our only playoff representative this season? Okay. So kudos to Schroeder and Ms. Harper. She's nodding with some proud affirmation because that was her school and she laid a good foundation. And I'm sure some of the staff and coaches are still there as a result of your leadership. So thank you, Juanetta.
I would also suggest on that, in my previous life, Wyoming High School always had to make it through Baden. And they are a powerhouse, and our Schroeder boys did outstanding against that powerhouse at Baden. And I was pleased at the attendance, and they did just incredibly well under all kinds of circumstances. And it was great to have it at home.
Yeah, to the past leadership, and if there are any other leaders from Schroeder here, I know exactly what it takes for a team to get that far. And so kudos to Schroeder. I'm very, very proud of their very first time making it to the playoffs.
Great. Any other kudos? All right. For resolutions, Mrs. Bates, would you please present the resolution for board consideration that you have?
Yes, I have the resolution for fiscal year 2014-2015 amended appropriations. I present that resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Nelms. Any discussion? Need any clarification from our treasurer? You can always help us understand what we're about to do.
Certainly, this resolution is to amend the appropriations that the board approved back in June of this year. The general fund appropriation is the same at $497,179,831. All of the other special revenue funds, they now include the carryover from the previous year that the state has now added to those funds, which increased the amount of dollars that's available for spending. So we have added those dollars in to the appropriation. So the total appropriation, including the general fund for the fiscal year, including all of these different funds, being the special revenue funds, the bond retirement funds, capital projects, proprietary funds for the enterprise funds, and as listed. The grand total is $659,668,901 as the appropriations for fiscal year 14-15.
Thank you. Any questions for our treasurer? If not, roll call, please.
Mrs. Bates. Aye. Mrs. Copeland Dansby. Aye. Mrs. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Coons. Aye. Mr. Manera.
Aye.
Mr. Nelms.
Aye.
President Bolton.
Aye. Mrs. Copeland Dansby, would you please present the resolution for board consideration that you have?
Yes, I have a resolution providing for the adoption of post-issuance compliance policies and procedures for tax-exempt obligations, and I present it as written.
Thank you very much. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Bates. Any questions or comments or any clarification that we need from the treasurer?
So that the resolution providing for the adoption of post-issuance compliance policies, we did sell a little over $72 million in bonds. What the IRS requires is that the treasurer, if we look at this, that there are purposes, obligations, definitions, and the responsibility of the treasurer to ensure that as we move forward with these bonds, that we are certainly making sure that we're paying our bill on time. We're making sure that we're not committing any arbitrage, which is making more money off the bonds than we should have, that we are following the IRS guidelines, and that we are getting an annual audit of these bonds, and Dinsmore is the company that we use that assists us in that. We were also told by Dinsmore that by the board adopting this resolution, not only the IRS is it's more amenable to our audit when they look to see that the board, in fact, has taken that seriously and actually adopts a resolution to ensure that we are doing the right thing by the bonds that we sold. So we are presenting this resolution for board approval. And I did have the conversations, I'm sorry, with Brenda Weimer of Dinsmore to ensure that I understood everything that was required for these bonds, and to ensure that moving forward that we were in compliance with all IRS regulations.
And I was just going to say thank you for your leadership in getting this through and done and properly noted, and it's greatly appreciated by the board. No questions? Then we'll have a roll call.
Mrs. Bates.
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby.
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Coons.
Aye.
Mr. Manera.
Aye.
Mr. Nelms.
Aye.
President Bolton.
Aye. Superintendent Ronan, do you have a report for the board?
Actually, I don't, but I did want to extend the invitation to board members. We have 4 more years of the New Taipei City Exchange, and we would love to have a board member go each year. So I would ask all of you to think about it and maybe try to plan ahead a few years.
Great.
Thank you.
Nora, what major city is New Taipei connected to? Is it China?
Actually, China actually views it as a province. However, Taiwan does not view themselves as part of mainland China. There's a bit of tension there. Chiang Kai-shek, when they fled mainland China, landed in Taiwan.
Okay.
So that's the situation. So I know when I was there, I talked about Taiwanese and the Taiwanese language, although I noticed those young ladies mentioned Chinese, but I noticed the adults did not when I was there. So I was, even though it looks very similar to Chinese.
What's the population?
There were 27 million people in, I believe, in Taiwan, and I think it was 17 million in New Taipei City. Okay. It honestly reminded me of Manhattan, that hustle bustle, tons of traffic, people out 24/7, but very safe, very little crime. Okay. So it was very lovely.
Okay.
And again, thank you for taking the leadership position on that. Do I have a motion to approve the recommendations of the superintendent?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Coons. Thank you, Ms. Copeland Dansby. Any questions for the superintendent? Roll call.
Mrs. Bates.
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby.
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Coons.
Aye.
Mr. Manera.
Aye.
Mr. Nelms.
Aye.
President Bolton.
Aye. Do I have a motion to approve the report of the treasurer? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Bates and Mr. Nelms, seconding. Any questions for Mrs. Witt?
I do have a couple questions.
Great.
On page 4 and 5 of the treasurer's report, you see agreements that are all related to adult basic education. It looks like 4 of them.
Sure.
Page 4 and 5.
Mine says 4 and 5.
That may be the GED program.
I was wondering. That's all I wanted. All of these support GED programs.
The funding comes through us, and then we distribute it to all the GED sites.
Gotcha. That's all I wanted. Thank you.
To follow up to that question, how many GED sites do we have?
I would say at least a dozen or more scattered throughout the community, and we're the conduit.
Okay. Fiscal agent of it. That's
good. It was an interesting follow-up to Indy about what the Goodwill folks are doing regarding maybe we can have, we have a new member of the Ohio House of Representatives going to be able to take a leadership on that. It was fascinating to hear talk about a high school diploma program in some of the states. So
yeah, well, that's kind of what prompted my question about it. And we've had just a couple little sidebar conversations about that adult education model,
Exactly.
which to me was very fascinating. So perhaps it's something that we continue to talk about.
Super. Any other questions for the treasurer? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bates.
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby.
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Coombs.
Aye.
Mr. Manera.
Aye.
Mr. Nelms.
Aye.
President Bolton.
Aye. Are there any inquiries or updates? Mrs. Hoffman?
Yeah, I am concerned about our families who are camping out right now. I'm concerned because the weather was bad enough that we canceled school.
We moved them inside.
Did.
They're
Okay,
in
I
the
was going to
gym.
ask if anyone's done it, especially tonight when it's 11 degrees.
They've been moved into the gymnasiums at the schools.
Fantastic, thank you. That was my inquiry. I have a second inquiry, and that's about House Bill 597. I saw that there's a possibility of the House voting this week, and I'm wondering what, if anything, we are doing in CPS.
What's the next?
Actually, in terms of going,
Testifying. It looks like they're still having folks testify. We're not sure if anyone.
I will, in fact, I think I see First Vice President of CFT back there.
Oh, great.
Lee, if we could talk about, we actually had sent up our principal coaches the last time because that way we weren't pulling teachers out of classrooms, and they did a great job.
Great.
So I will communicate with CFT and we'll see if we can organize that again and send the same individuals up.
Thank you.
Any other inquiries or updates?
I got one.
Mr. Nelms?
Yeah, I just want to say, just on the behalf of the board, I'd like to extend condolences to Deputy Superintendent Laura Mitchell for the loss of your father, Robert A. Lumpkin, and I understand that a memorial was held on November the 8th. And Laura, I want you to know that our prayers are with you in your loss, and every time we see you, we see the living legacy that he left.
Thank you, Vice President Nelms. Any other inquiries or updates? Assignments?
I have
Mrs.
one,
Bates.
yes. And as the board knows, we have a fellow and an intern from Teach for America. And Erica and Lisa and I have met with Sarah Jenkins, and we have an initiative that will be overseen if this assignment is accepted by Alex's committee. Student achievement, and we are going to call it the initiative of the whole child initiative. This will encompass a look at special services, discipline, and social emotional learning in this district, and how by examining all of those areas and having them intersect and interact with one another, how we can form a culture that promotes the whole child. And the way that I propose we do this is to have organize an ad hoc committee with the three of us, the three board members that I just mentioned, Sarah Jenkins as our staff, and then also invite the administration to participate in that. A representative from Parents from Public Schools will include a representative from our CFT our teachers union. And also, I think it would be a good idea, and this is an idea that I'd like to run by the board too, to have a parent who has this child in special services. I mean, we could add, or if there are other areas that I'm totally missing, but this is very much like the kind of ad hoc committees we had run before for portfolio schools and charter school application process, and we have her for 6 months, so it will have a beginning and an end. So I would like to make this assignment to student achievement, that we have the ad hoc committee assigned to Erica and Elisa and myself and our intern.
I certainly accept the assignment. I'd recommend that we start as soon as possible since she's only here for 6 months. But I love the name, Whole Child Initiative. I think that summarizes what is needed. So
I like that.
Initial date and to extend invitations to those who may be, able to participate and help us out with this.
Well, I think it's the board's will, so that'll be an assignment. Any other assignments? Mrs. Hoffman.
Back to what we talked about in the beginning, the Indy debrief. So I think it's easy to go off and learn things and then go back to your daily life that's already busy enough. And we want to make sure we actually take a lot of what we learned and figure out how we might be able to use it in our district. And so I'm not sure the best way to do that, but I think we got to figure out who wants to participate and under what committee, student achievement again, or how that'll work.
that's what I was going to suggest. Given that it's something we planned and talked about in student achievement, perhaps we would ask administrators that attended, as well as board members that attended, to bring any suggestions about how we galvanize what we learned and apply it to our district if necessary. So we could probably.
Would that be at the December meeting?
I'm trying to think how much room is on that agenda, but for now, let's say December for now, and then I'll review with Phyllis the agenda to see if.
And I think it's a great idea. I think it would be helpful too, to even if we put together a page memo as to the topics and some of the things that we learned, so that those board members that were not able to attend have at least to kind of get them up to speed before we get to further along, because I think some of that stuff is definitely a whole board discussion, which will be great. So that's cool. Just if somebody can kind of put that together, be wonderful.
Me? Are we all looking at me?
We are. I looked right at you when I said it.
Sure.
Of an administrator.
I was just going to say with it, yes, I can definitely
One or
draft.
two since we split up.
Yep, and
all
send it out, and
looking
then
away
people
that
can
way.
add to it. Perfect. Sounds good.
Any other assignments? Okay, we have no other assignments, and the chair will entertain a motion from Mrs. Bates.
Yes, I move we recess into executive session to consider the employment of a public official.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Coons. Roll call.
Mrs. Bates.
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby. Mrs. Hoffman. Aye. Mr. Coons. Aye. Mr. Manera.
Aye.
Mr. Nelms. Aye. President Bolton.
Aye. Thank you all for coming out on this dreadful night. Everybody drive safely home. Let's get all that.
I'm gonna upstairs and get my coat and stuff first, and then come down.
Hey, what's going on? I'm in a board meeting, but we're recessing right now, so I have some time. Oh, I don't think so. I think that's a great idea.
Right. So, I mean, they're going to.